Welcome back to Global Crypto, the channel where we break down everything happening in the world of digital assets so you can stay ahead of the curve. I'm your host, and today we are diving deep into some absolutely massive developments surrounding XRP. And trust me, if you have been holding this asset or even just watching this space closely, you are going to want to hear every single word of what we are covering today. We have got two major storylines converging at the exact same time, and together they are painting one of the most bullish pictures XRP has seen in a very long time. So grab your coffee, get comfortable, and let's get into it right now, because this one is genuinely a big deal. Let's start by setting the stage here, because context is everything when we are talking about regulatory developments in the crypto space. Over the last 48 hours, two separate but deeply connected events have taken place in Washington. And the timing of both happening together is something that serious XRP watchers simply cannot ignore. First, the New York Stock Exchange, yes, the largest stock exchange on the entire planet, formally filed a rule change with the Securities and Exchange Commission that officially names XRP as an eligible commodity. That single action places XRP in the same legal category as Bitcoin, Ethereum, and Solana in the eyes of one of the most powerful financial institutions in the world. Let that sink in for just a moment before we move forward. Now, here is why that NYSE filing is such a monumental moment and not just another piece of background noise. When the New York Stock Exchange puts something into an official SEC filing, that is not a casual decision. That document goes through layers of legal review, compliance checks, and institutional oversight before a single word is published. So when NYSE uses the word commodity to describe XRP in a formal regulatory submission, they are making a deliberate, legally informed statement about how they view this asset. This is not speculation. This is not a tweet from an anonymous account. This is the world's biggest stock exchange telling regulators exactly where XRP stands in their eyes, and that carries enormous weight in financial and legal circles. At the very same time this NYSE filing was making waves, Senator Cynthia Lummis stepped up at Bitcoin 2026 and delivered a warning that every single person in the crypto community needs to take seriously. She made it crystal clear that right now, today, in this current moment, the House, the Senate, and the White House are all aligned on moving forward with crypto legislation. She emphasized that this kind of political alignment across all three branches is incredibly rare in Washington. It almost never happens. And she warned point blank that this window of opportunity may not stay open for long. She was talking specifically about the Clarity Act, and she wants lawmakers to act before this rare moment of unity disappears. So what exactly is the Clarity Act, and why does it matter so much for XRP specifically? The Clarity Act is proposed legislation designed to draw a clear legal line between digital assets that should be classified as commodities and those that should be classified as securities. This distinction sounds technical on the surface, but the real-world consequences of that classification are absolutely enormous. It determines which federal agency oversees a given token, it shapes how exchanges are allowed to list and trade that token, it affects how banks and financial institutions can legally hold and use it, and most importantly for the broader market, it controls whether or not institutional money can flow in at scale. Without clarity on these classifications, large institutions stay on the sidelines. Senator Lummis did not just explain what the Clarity Act is, she attached a very serious timeline warning to her comments that should have everyone paying close attention. She said that if this bill does not get passed during this current window of political alignment, the next realistic opportunity for meaningful crypto legislation might not arrive until 2030. That is 4 full years of regulatory uncertainty, 4 years of institutional hesitation, and 4 years of slower adoption across the board. 4 years in the crypto world is an eternity. The market moves fast, technology evolves fast, and global competitors are not waiting around for American lawmakers to get their act together. The pressure is real, and the clock is genuinely ticking right now. Crypto researcher and well-known XRP analyst Ripple Bullwinkle was among the first to connect the dots between the NYSE filing and the Clarity Act developments, and his analysis is worth walking through carefully. He pointed out that these two events happening simultaneously, one from the private financial sector and one from the political world, represent a dual signal of validation for XRP that is hard to dismiss. When the regulatory environment is moving toward clarity at the legislative level at the exact same moment that the world's biggest stock exchange is formalizing XRP's commodity status in a legal document, those two forces are reinforcing each other in a way that builds a much stronger foundation for XRP's long-term positioning. What makes all of this even more powerful is what is already happening on the XRP Ledger in real time, completely independent of all these regulatory discussions. Just recently, a transaction involving Ripple's stablecoin settled $59 million worth of value on the XRP Ledger, and the total fee for that transaction was just $0.0000188. Read that again. $59 million moved across the network for less than a fraction of a single penny in fees. This is not a theoretical use case. This is not a white paper promise. This is real money moving through a real network at a speed and cost that no traditional financial system on Earth can come close to matching right now. That $59 million settlement is important for one very specific reason that sometimes gets lost in the excitement around price and regulation. It proves the network works. It proves that XRP is not just a speculative asset sitting in wallets waiting for a price pump. It is an active, functioning payment network that is already being used for large-scale, real-world financial transactions. Every time a transaction like this occurs and gets recorded on the ledger, it strengthens the case that XRP has genuine utility, and utility is ultimately what separates assets that survive long-term from those that fade into irrelevance. This is the kind of organic, real-world adoption that no amount of marketing can manufacture. Now let's talk about the bigger picture here, because this is where the conversation gets truly exciting for anyone who understands where global finance is heading. There is a growing consensus among financial analysts, technology experts, and forward-thinking institutions that traditional financial systems are beginning a slow but inevitable migration onto blockchain rails. Cross-border payments, trade settlements, liquidity management, interbank transfers, all of these processes are inefficient, slow, and expensive in their current form. They were designed for a world that existed decades ago, and the infrastructure is creaking under the weight of modern global commerce. XRP, with its speed, its cost efficiency, and its growing regulatory clarity, is uniquely positioned to be the bridge asset in that transition. Ripple Bullwinkle shared a price model with his audience that is genuinely worth discussing, not because price predictions are ever guaranteed, but because of what the model reveals about the potential scale of XRP adoption. The model outlines 5 possible scenarios based on different levels of real-world adoption, ranging from a conservative 12 times current price levels all the way up to an extraordinary 13,000 times growth if XRP becomes deeply embedded in global financial infrastructure. Now, the most extreme scenario requires a level of adoption that would fundamentally reshape how money moves around the world. But the fact that even the conservative end of the model shows significant upside tells you a lot about the runway this asset potentially has if the regulatory and institutional pieces continue falling into place. It is also worth stepping back and appreciating just how much the narrative around XRP has shifted over the past year or two. Not long ago, XRP was caught in the middle of one of the most high-profile legal battles in crypto history, with the SEC lawsuit casting a long shadow over its future and creating uncertainty that kept many institutional players at a distance. The fact that we are now sitting here talking about the New York Stock Exchange formally classifying XRP as a commodity in an SEC filing, that is a complete 180-degree turn in the regulatory story. The legal cloud has not just cleared, it is being replaced by active institutional endorsement at the highest levels of American finance. And this is not happening in a vacuum. The broader crypto regulatory environment in the United States is shifting in a way that is creating a much more welcoming landscape for digital assets across the board. But XRP's combination of factors, its speed, its low transaction costs, its established relationships with financial institutions around the world through Ripple's network, its growing commodity classification, and the real-world settlements already happening on its ledger, puts it in a uniquely strong position compared to many other assets in this space. When institutions start moving seriously into crypto, they are going to want assets with clarity, liquidity, and real utility. XRP is checking all 3 of those boxes right now simultaneously. Let's also take a moment to appreciate the significance of the political moment Senator Lummis described at Bitcoin 2026, because it is easy to gloss over just how unusual this kind of alignment is in Washington. American politics is deeply divided on almost every issue imaginable right now, and getting the House, Senate, and White House all moving in the same direction on anything is genuinely remarkable. The fact that crypto legislation has managed to create this rare moment of bipartisan momentum is a testament to how seriously the financial industry and its lobbying power have pushed this issue to the front of the legislative agenda. Lummis knows Washington better than almost anyone in the crypto space, and when she says the window could close, believe her. Here is where we land at the end of all of this, and we want to make sure this message is absolutely clear for everyone watching today. The XRP story right now is not just about price. It is not just about technical charts or short-term trading setups. What is unfolding across the regulatory, institutional, and real-world adoption fronts simultaneously is the kind of multi-layered validation that serious long-term investors look for in an asset. The NYSE commodity classification, the Clarity Act momentum, the $59 million settlement for a fraction of a penny, and the adoption models showing enormous upside, all of these threads are weaving together into a single, coherent story about where XRP is heading. Keep watching this space closely, stay informed, and as always, thank you so much for being part of the global crypto community. We will see you in the next one.